Nike fades back, swoosh, and that's the game. Air, released in 2023 and is directed by Ben Affleck, who has also directed such films like Gone Baby Gone, The Town, Live by Night, and Go Fuck Yourself. Plus, he was also a Batman a very, very long time ago. And this movie is starring Matt Damon, Jason Bateman, Marlon Wayans, Chris Messina, Chris Tucker, Viola Davis, and of course Ben Affleck. The year is 1984, and Nike is a struggling shoe business trying to keep up with other competitors like Converse and Adidas. And in searching for that Hail Mary play that will land them a huge client to boost their sales, Sonny Vaccaro comes up with a great idea of spending their entire budget on trying to land the new and upcoming major star from the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan. So the movie tells the story about all of the lengths that Sonny went to land this client, and also the design and product concepts behind one of the most popular shoes ever created, the Air Jordan. And not in a million years did I ever think that a movie about producing a shoe would intrigue me so much. When it comes to shoes, like, it's all about functionality for me and comfort, but it's not like, oh, if I'm wearing Jordans, I have a huge stake in society. Like, no, they're things that I put on my feet that I walk around on the dirty ground on. So I don't care what the label is, just as long as it looks okay and it's comfortable. But Air Jordans is one of, if not the top-selling shoe in the entire world. So to make a movie about it, I guess it makes sense. I just never thought that a movie about a shoe would be so intriguing and just one of the best films that I have seen this year. And this film is produced by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon from their new company called Artist Equity. I always love to hear that a new film studio is being created, and it's nice to have big names like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon behind them. Plus, they also have a little bit of partnership, at least with this movie, with Amazon Studios and getting it produced there and streamed out there for the mass audiences to see. And hopefully everyone has seen this movie by now. I believe it came out earlier this year around March sometime. I'm just now getting around to it, and my god, this is definitely one of the best films of the year. I would hope it's nominated for Best Picture. That's how great this frickin' thing is. And we've seen this over the last decade where they're taking these sports biographical topics, and instead of doing like the stereotypical, like Disney-ified biographical pictures like, Remember the Titans or Miracle, where we follow games in the sporting world, we're actually following the business aspect of the sporting world. I feel like we started that with Moneyball, and here we are just on the business, corporate, and advertising side of the basketball world. I learned so much in this film about NBA regulations during the 80s, about how you could only have a certain percentage of color on your shoes, and if you had more, the NBA would fine you like $5,000 per game, which is ridiculous when you think about it now, but back then, looking back at like old basketball highlights, like, yeah, all of them were wearing white shoes. I just never put two and two together. So to hear one of the many stories in this film that Nike was offering to produce a colorful shoe for Michael Jordan, but then also willing to pay the fines for each game. That way he can still have these colorful shoes and really stand out from other players. There are so many little trinkets and stories like that in here that I absolutely love. Now, I was a child of the 90s, so Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls made basketball popular, and it was all about them back in the 90s. It was all Michael Jordan and the Bulls. So it's a little strange for me going back to the mid-80s, back when Michael Jordan, he wasn't that big of a deal. He was definitely sought after and people knew of him, but he's definitely not the marquee name that he would become in the 90s. So to see all of these corporate heads talking about him as another one of the players, or telling him that he should just be honored of being mentioned in the conversation with other names like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, it's really strange because he would outshine all of them, and in my opinion, I think he outshines all basketball players. I think he's the best one that's ever played the game. And I love seeing the mindset that Sonny gets around crafting this shoe product around the player, as opposed to just making another cookie cutter-ish shoe that we can just slap someone's name on. No, he wants to do something that is unique to the player itself. And then when that player breaks out and becomes a huge megastar, all of a sudden everyone wants that single individual piece of him in that shoe. It's brilliant marketing, but you can also see that that's a big freaking risk, considering where Nike was in the 80s, which is also weird to me, because Nike, for me, has always been like the main product for athletics. You see that little swoop logo everywhere, at least that's what I saw growing up. It's weird to think that back in the 90s, it was just this small little company. Adidas and Converse were outselling them tremendously, and then they were just struggling, and they were looked at as a joke in the industry. This film does a great job of setting you in that era. We have a bunch of little montages for the 80s, and some of the best montages I have ever seen. Big kudos needs to go to Ben Affleck for the direction of this film. Everything is clear. The pacing, I think, is fantastic, which is great, because you're talking about a shoe. You're talking about selling a shoe to people. But yet I'm so intrigued with this movie, more so than some of the other action films that I've seen this year. And Matt Damon gives another solid performance here. I believe whenever Matt Damon is in a movie, you're gonna get at least a good performance. When we talk about, when Matt Damon is 80 years old and he's retired from acting, looking back on his career, I don't think that this role is gonna be anything that's gonna stand out. Like, if I think of Matt Damon, would I think of this character Sonny with him? Probably not. He does have a fantastic monologue in the climax of this film when he's talking to Michael Jordan and selling him on this shoe. That's a monologue that I would use in audition. I mean, that's freaking great. Jason Bateman, who plays Sonny's manager, is also great in this film. Actually, I think he's one of the best parts, because at first he's a little bit of this jerk of a manager who's not really listening to anything. He just wants to play it safe. And then as they get into crafting the pitch for the Air Jordan, that's when we dive in a little bit to his reasoning and why he plays it safe. And I just love this character. I love his character arc. I love the monologues that he has in this movie. I think Jason Bateman, for being like this straight comedic actor, at least that's how I know him, to have this great dramatic role and dramatic performance, I think he shines. But probably the best performance here is Viola Davis as Michael Jordan's mother, who is so commanding on screen. Whenever she comes on screen, they build her up nicely. Like, she's the manager, she makes all the financial decisions for Michael. Michael focuses on basketball when it comes to when all the business inquiries and all the advertisements, you come to the mother. And she's so commanding in not showing that much emotion. For any brand new or first time actors, if you're given the script for Viola Davis's character in this film, I would have the sense that these first-time actors would show a lot of emotion behind it, show a lot of rage and energy behind it. But Viola Davis has a lot of energy, but it's pulled back a lot. And she is very focused, and she is very quiet in how she talks, and is very deliberate in how she talks. You don't get a lot of rises in tone or emotion from her. But when she's fighting for her son and fighting for what is right for her son as an athlete for a company using his name, she never shouts, she never raises her voice, she always stays calm, collected, and firm in her belief. I just love Viola Davis so much in here. She is tremendous. I really hope she gets nominated for Best Supporting Actress, because she definitely deserves it. You have other great performances in here too, from Marlon Wayans and Chris Tucker, of all people. Ben Affleck knows how to cast for his movies, and he knows how to direct his actors, because all of his movies that he's directed are all solid character pieces. If I had to pick one aspect of this movie that was just off for me, or that wasn't sitting well with me, was that we never got to see Michael Jordan's face in this film. We did when we did all like the flashbacks and everything, but the actor, the stand-in actor who was playing Michael Jordan, they made an effort to never show his face. Like, someone would be standing in front of him, or the camera would cut as Michael Jordan was turning to look at something else. It became very Home Improvement-esque. I understand why they did it. If you cast someone as Michael Jordan, there's going to be a comparison constantly on social media for that, so they strayed away from that. But the fact that they kept trying to cut to Michael, and then you just never saw his face, it got to the point where it was becoming comical, and I don't think they intended it to be. But Air is a great slice of history into an aspect that I had no concept of, or just had no idea that, oh, that's how it started, and that's how much Nike was struggling in the 80s. This is actually where athletes, and really just anyone having their name used for product placement, this is kind of where it started, where the person's name being slapped on the product actually gets a share in the revenue. I didn't know, like, this was the first one. That's really cool. Air is a wonderful film. It is one of the best films of 2023. I really hope it's nominated for several Academy Awards next year. And if you haven't yet, please watch it. It is free on Amazon Prime if you have that subscription. I really hope you enjoyed it, because I sure as hell did. I'm going to give Air 4.5 out of 5 Blu-rays.
It's good.
So guys, if you've seen Air, what did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before and you stumbled across it because of this video, then comment below and let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you the next time I release my next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.